Morning, everybody. Got my cup of coffee here, and I thought I'd show you how an author works. Still in my jammies, didn't do my hair this morning. This is what you get. This is the life. So I just thought, instead of putting on all the makeup and all the fancy clothing and, putting on the image, well, this is the real me. So anyways, I just like to thank you for coming and listening to my little spiel about my books, Dragonhorse, Seeker of the Forgotten Knowledge, Book 1, and Samaya, which is the prequel, Book 2, Talion, which is Book 3, is in the works. That will be after Dragonhorse, so I guess you would call it the sequel to Dragonhorse. I'm working on another book called Candlelight and Cobwebs, and Leo here is one of the characters of that book, so he likes to be wherever I am. He's a pretty cool guy. But anyway, so I'm working on this book, and Talion is kind of on the back burner for right now. These two books took a lot of energy out of me to write, a lot of emotional energy, and I needed to take a break. But anyways, I wanted to let you know what was the inspiration for Dragonhorse. And I have a picture right here. This guy. And when I found him, he had just been rescued by a lady down the street, and he was on his way to the slaughter, and she had a friend that went and purchased him before he went to slaughter. And let me see here. This just gives you an idea of what I found when I saw him down the street. Now, mind you, I'm going to back up a little bit here. When I saw this horse, his name is Lucky, I had just finished my first level of Reiki, and for those of you who know energy healing, Reiki is one of the modalities, and so I just had completed the first level, and my daughter told me about, she had saw the horse down the street that we used to admire, and she says, Mom, she says, this horse, you should see him. He has cancer, and he's going to die, and you need to help him. So I got really brave, and I walked down the street and knocked on the door and asked the little lady if I could help her horse. And she's like, sure. She says, I feel so sorry for him. And she said, the vet was here about a month ago and said he was, he had melanoma, and she gave him 8 months to live. And she says he did come out and try to cut off a few of the cancerous tumors, but she says all he did was bleed, and they came back. But I have a couple pictures of what he looked like when we first found him. That's one on his right front. And then this is the same leg, another tumor up on his knee area. And then he had another growth. I don't know, let me see if okay. This was underneath his armpit on the other side of the other leg underneath. So my friend and I, who also took the energy healing class, we decided to take him on as our first patient. And oh my gosh, what a ride that was. And we did everything. We worked on him every single day. I worked on him every single day, and this horse smelled like death. And those of you who read this book, that's in the story when Cheyenne finds him. She goes through the same thing. This horse smelled like death. My husband used to be so mad at me. I would come home, and he's like, you smell like that dead horse. I can't believe you're out there working on something that's going to die anyways. So we didn't give up. And after a month, after the vet said he had 8 months to live, this is what we started getting. That's a month. And then here we go, a little later, and look at that. Those tumors actually started shrinking and sloughing and falling off. And here's the one that was on, okay, so this is what his hoof up in his pastern area looked like. And then this is after it fell off. Now that whole leg was so swollen, and his hoof was splayed out from all the cancer, and he was so swollen all the way up and he was so lame. We just thought, you know, there's just no way, you know, this poor guy's gonna get any better. And so underneath the arm, it started shriveling and sloughing off. So there you got some really good flesh underneath. Now, interesting enough, this had maggots in it, and we did learn that maggots only eat dead flesh. So we opted to leave the maggots there. And sure enough, that's what they were doing. They were eating the dead flesh. And so anyways, this picture is 2 years later, and we had no idea what kind of training he had. He was retired off the racetrack. We were able to get his tattoo underneath his lip and traced his lineage, and he goes back to native dancer on both sides. So he was a retired racehorse, and he was big, 17 hands. And so this guy started my journey, and it was a long journey, and it was scary, and I had to learn a lot, and it's all written in here, and it's exactly what poor Cheyenne had to go through. But she had a lot of help. She had a gypsy shaman that she found that helped her learn about healing and helped her learn about her abilities. So there are two other horses in the story. Sterling is another one. Lucky led me to Sterling, and when I found him, weight-wise on the scale of 1 to 10, the vet said he was 3. And I kept his blanket on him for the first 6 months because I didn't want the neighbors to think that I was starving him. And he was the coolest guy, and he did really well. I had him for 3 years, and he was a retired racehorse, and he finally decided his job was done, and he crossed over a year after Lucky did. And then Lucky also brought me to Aragon. Now Aragon's the big one up here, and Aragon was another big guy, big 17-hand guy. Oh my gosh, this guy had so many issues, but all three of these horses taught me a whole lot. And so, you know, this was the inspiration for these stories. But you know, I did this by believing and putting aside old thought processes that just no longer served me. I knew that there was something beyond what we were being told. It's a journey of self-discovery of our own inherent abilities, and it's spreading throughout humanity. I mean, superheroes are such a big thing now, and you gotta stop and wonder why. I mean, we already have a lot of those abilities if we just believe. So these three guys, you know, taught me the lesson of life, death, and rebirth. And the gypsies will tell you that, you know, they have that certain breed of horse called the Gypsy Banner horse, and that horse is usually black and white. And the reason they bred the horses to be black and white was the color black and white was symbology for life and death. And so they knew the cycle of life and death. And this is something that the horses taught me. And it's kind of interesting because all of your indigenous people, you know, the Native Americans, the gypsies, Peruvians, you know, the earth-based, anything that's connected with the earth, they all know about life, death, and rebirth and resurrection. And and believe it or not, dragon has the same symbology: life, death, and resurrection. So these lessons are taught about in these books, and to die is not the end. We live in a multi-dimensional world, and just because we've left the third plane does not mean that we are totally gone. And for those of us who believe in this, I mean, there's ways to get into these other dimensions, and so all that is explored, and all the earth-based witchery in the elemental realm, and how we lost connection with our planet, and that our Mother Earth is actually a living entity. I mean, she's no different than us, and we really need to be careful how we tread on her, because she's had enough. And I think those of us who are aware and are awake, we do know this, and we feel it. And I'm an empath and highly sensitive person, so I feel just what the animals feel. There's a tsunami coming, they all flee because they're still connected with Mother Earth. So they know what they need to do, and most of us are sitting around playing our video games, or sitting in Pizza Hut, or watching a reality TV show. We've just totally lost that, and there's just so much more out there for us than what we have been dumbed down to. And but I would like to finish with reading well, I was going to read an excerpt, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on the next video. I don't want to make this one too long. But anyways, if you make it to the next video, I'll read an excerpt from the book, and at the end of that excerpt, there might be a little message for you. So anyways, thank you for coming and watching, and here I am in the morning drinking my coffee. What better thing to do than something you love? So I'll be right back. Thanks.